What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by Justis Mosqueda from Acme Packing Company after preseason week 2 in the books. Justis, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm in a condo with the in-laws and my girlfriend. Her sister had a baby, so I'm hanging out in the
Congratulations.
bay.
Sweet.
It's like it really is just like 60, 70 degrees year round here. I can't believe it. It's perfect.
Meanwhile, it's like almost 100 in New York today, so
Buddy, I was sweating bullets in Portland, and I'm like, I'm
I'll
going
bet.
south, and then it gets cooler going south somehow. I don't
How's
get
that
it.
work? How does that work? Also, how does it work when the Green Bay Packers are coming off a game where essentially none of the starters played, or at least a very minimal amount of the starters played?
I mean, you could make the case maybe Jordan Morgan and Shawn Ryan,
Yeah,
and that's
right?
about it.
And they look better. I mean,
Hmm?
obviously there's context behind that, but I would say that was a heartening performance from the Packers in Indianapolis as opposed to what we saw the first week out against the Jets. It was nice to see just some production and a little consistency. The thing
Yeah, outside of the penalties from Belton.
All right, we'll get to that. Let's start there, shall we? I mean, we're talking about position battles, right? We're talking about guys coming into this summer that maybe we spent the offseason looking at and saying, these are the position groups. And certainly there's always a battle at the bottom of the offensive line depth chart, right? Now, I don't think anyone is under any illusions that Belton's going to be cut or that his job is in danger. But certainly it's hard if you're the coaching staff to look at this performance against the Colts and have a whole lot of confidence in a kid who was making some repeated mistakes. Now, I know Matt LaFleur kind of massaged that today in his availability regarding like, well, it's the entirety of the offensive line. We got to look at the guards and their splits, etc. What have you thought of Belton overall? Because I know the headlines have been unfortunate with the penalties, but I think the tools have been on display.
Yeah, I still ultimately think that the spot he's going to end up playing for this team is going to be guard. But that's probably going to be 2026. I do think that this year they're going to use him as a tackle, as kind of like a break and emergency tackle, basically. I don't expect him to get on the field a whole ton. Again, it would probably take a couple injuries for that to happen.
Right.
But I do think, like, we kept talking about his footwork as a positive coming out, when people are doing the draft evaluations after the selection and stuff. Since I watched him, which was, when they brought him on a pre-draft visit, right? Because that's when I try to catch these guys, because I know there's
Right.
a huge chance that they're going to end up being Packers. I always thought his feet weren't as good as advertised. And I think some of that shows up on film. And it gets him into positions where he ends up getting penalties. I mean, how many holding penalties in the NFL? The root cause is not just guys being grabby, but guys being out of position and then trying to,
or not moving their feet, right?
Yeah,
Like you can
exactly.
have your hands up and even in good position, but the moment your feet are slow and a guy is getting past you, not only do you grab, but then you're trying to regain position, and
Yeah,
ultimately the guy's by you at that point, and you're grabbing
right.
and getting that holding call a lot
So
of
I
the
do
time.
think there's some of that, and I think that that's going to be a little bit of a reoccurring theme until he gets kicked inside. Um, I'm definitely not as worried about him though, as much as like Monk didn't have as bad of a game, right? It wasn't
I mean, that's a
three
low
holding
bar.
penalties
That is
or
a
anything like
low
that.
bar.
Yeah, but he still didn't have a strong game.
Agreed.
Jennings was the one who got picked on in this one. A lot of that had to do with the fact Indianapolis was running. I just got done watching the offense on film. Indianapolis was running a lot of 3-man stunts. So, it would be like on one side, a 3 technique and a defensive end slant inside, and the linebacker loops
The
around.
long loop got them
Yep.
a couple times,
So
definitely. Yeah.
the 3-man protection really has to communicate and pass over those stunts really well. I think Jennings got caught in a lot of that. And, one of the positives is Jordan Morgan looks really good at
Right.
handling 3-man stunts. But yeah, I Butkus just went on. I don't know if you caught the clip. It's like happening right before we
Right.
recorded this, but Butkus was like, the depth of our offensive line isn't where we want it to be. I think that has to do more with, Monk and Jennings. Obviously, penalties bad, 5 penalties and a half in a quarter, maybe very
I mean,
bad,
it
right?
felt like a quarter, that's for sure.
So I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's going
to
to be
me,
interesting because
to
I think the team is going to keep 9.
yeah,
At this point, though, I was willing to write off Telfort. Now I'm like, Telfort might be
he
in this
might make it by
competition.
default. I agree.
Yeah, like
Well, it's
Telfort, Monk,
so
Jennings, 2 of them got to get in.
to
We'll see.
me,
Or
what's
maybe waiver wire.
the biggest that's where I think they're headed because man, I don't know. I thought, and we talked about this all offseason. I really thought Jacob Monk was going to come in and look a lot better than he has. And it hasn't just been the games, because that would be one thing, right? If he's putting really good stuff on the field during practice, but then some circumstances, whatever, specific scheme, whatever, like, okay, I can maybe write that off a little bit. Man, it's been a rough summer for Monk overall. Like, he has not done well in any regard. So, that's not to
He's
say
tough because he's losing one-on-one battles too,
right.
which is not
Yep.
great. He's overextending his arms and stuff like that. He's, as a defensive lineman, if you get a locked out arm, you're treating that like a steering wheel, and
Right.
it's not like Monk has a lot of length to give.
Nope.
A lot of the Monk evaluation was, coming out of Duke, right? There was a lot of people who actually did like him. But they were like, ceiling kind of capped, has to be center only. And unfortunately, he's getting a lot of looks at guard. And I do think he's playing better as a center, but you have to treat him as that. You don't necessarily want him getting those guard looks. So I do think it's a little, you kind of have to split those 2 evaluations apart, on the Monk circumstance. But guard, thumbs down on guard for Monk. I don't need to see it.
And it's funny because I know last year Matt said this point blank, like, the quickest way as a backup offensive lineman to making the roster is being the backup center. And I thought that's where he had his best shot heading into this camp. But right now, to me, it's still Shawn Ryan as your backup to Elton Jenkins, right? And the Ryan thing is interesting because obviously at the start of camp, Jordan Morgan was running at right guard almost exclusively with Shawn Ryan, and a bit of a rotation there. But since Rasheed Walker's injury, Jordan Morgan's done nothing but play left tackle.
Right.
And the right guard thing is kind of somewhat been forgotten about simply because you have Shawn Ryan there and you can set it and forget it.
Yeah.
But I am fascinated to see what happens this week in particular, because Rasheed Walker finally got back into limited teamwork, the joint practice, right? So you got to think this week, this is it. This is the final battle, so to speak, because when Walker gets his opportunities, do they keep Jordan Morgan on the field and put him at right guard and put Shawn Ryan on the bench? I think that we're going to see that at some point this week.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised even, like, I know Stenovich, like, last month was like, the competition is going to go into the regular season, and I fully believe that they're willing to take it there.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like Rasheed Walker plays like 2/3 of the left tackle snaps, Shawn Ryan plays 2/3 of the right guard snaps, and then Jordan Morgan just fills in 2/3 of the snaps at both spots, right? Like, plays a third at both spots. And they just do that until they figure out, unless there's, a clear-cut best 5,
right?
They could just keep that going, right? And
well, you see, what's funny, Justis, is I totally agree. That is the probably most likely endpoint here, the most likely scenario. I will admit I hate it. I wish they would let Jordan Morgan compete, and if he wins the left tackle job, give it to him. And if he doesn't, man, I understand wanting to keep him in that mix at left tackle, but for the team, I want my talent to be focused on one position and trying to be the best they can be at that position. I don't love the idea of him bouncing between guard and tackle in game. But again, the way you lay it out there wouldn't surprise me.
But here's the thing, though, right? Like, someone's going to get hurt eventually,
right?
And Morgan is going to be first guy called up.
Yeah, to either place.
Ryan, right? Like, however you want to look at it from that perspective. So, I do think so. This happens because this is the crux of the issue, right? I think if they were, you inject them with true serum,
right, the dream.
Their best 5 involves Morgan and Walker on the field, right?
Yes.
So which one do you kick inside? Well, Morgan, you kind of want to be the left tackle of the future because you're probably not going to have the stomach to pay the 20 whatever million per year that Walker's going to get on the open market.
Correct.
So in this way, right, it helps Morgan bank those left tackle snaps so that he can use that going into next offseason when he's, hate to spoil it for
Presumably
you guys. He's
right.
probably going to be the left tackle for
Yep.
the team and, moving forward. But then at the same time, you can use him to spell Ryan, who's still getting action because he's going to be first guy off of the bench, right? If there's an injury.
Yep.
But yeah, Morgan playing right guard, and he's probably better than Ryan, and you just use him in a rotational role. Like, I don't, I kind of get it. I know they talked about a 7-man rotation. I don't think they're doing that. I don't think Belton's going to
Not
get
yet,
on the
but
purpose.
yeah, I think if Belton had been looking more consistent, I think that would have been a possibility.
Oh, sure. If you want Joe Thomas, if Joe Thomas is on the bench and your 7th lineman, yeah, go work him in. Why not?
In there, right?
So.
Yeah, I agree there. Sticking on the offensive side of the ball, what have you made of all these young wide receivers getting opportunities now that we've essentially had every single starter hit the bench due to injury? I'll tell you what, yesterday I was encouraged by a lot of what we saw from almost to a guy, and I'm including Malik Heath here. And I know, he had a real rough looking outing against the Jets, but I thought he handled himself really well yesterday, even when he was clearly being interfered with and or held.
I was going to say, I was like, the unfortunate thing is some of his best plays where he got open the most, where he ends up getting yanked or something like that, and he's spazzing out on the ref.
As he should, because they were ridiculous non-calls. But I thought every one of Julian Hicks, Cornelius Johnson, all those guys, I thought they played, put some really nice stuff on tape.
I think Hicks is their preferred guy after, if we're talking about the depth chart, right? It's like the guys who are for sure going to make the team. Then it's Heath, Mecole Hardman, and then Julian Hicks. I think Hicks
has been with them longer, right? I mean, he was on the practice squad last year and things like that. So
yeah,
I get it.
Gun to my head, I think Heath is wide receiver 6 today. I think, he does some of the slot stuff. We saw that against the Jets where they really liked using him there. And, you could use him as an insert blocker, all that stuff. He helps a lot on special teams. That's not something you could say about wide receivers who are non-returners on this roster. Mecole Hardman caught the 1 punt. He went for like 10 yards or something like that.
He did.
So he didn't have the disaster class, but offensively clean. With the first team unit, it's pretty clear that they like Heath more than Mecole Hardman on the offensive side. And the interesting thing about Mecole is they only use him in the slot in sort of the same way they use Jaden Reed in the slot.
Right.
I just don't know if you need a true backup slot receiver on this team when you have Heath, you have Wicks, you have Matthew Golden, who's been getting snaps in there when Jaden Reed isn't on the field, right? So I think, especially for like kickoff return stuff, if you're not going to keep the extra tight end, the 4th tight end or whatever, I think Heath is really going to help you. So right now I would say Heath is ahead of Mecole Hardman, even though I think everyone hopes that Mecole Hardman is some sort of all-pro punt returner, and
well, I think that was the hope. That certainly has.
I agree that was the hope. I agree that was the hope, and
right.
I always try to remind Packers fans that when the Hardman signing happened, there were real questions about speed with the Packers wide receiver room, right? Because Christian Watson was hurt, all that stuff. Those questions are not the same anymore once you've drafted Matthew Golden and Savion Williams in the top 100 picks. So I definitely think that the draft hurt Mecole Hardman's standing on the roster too.
I very much agree, though I will say I thought he did some nice stuff from scrimmage yesterday. Going back and watching it this morning, it's not like every ball is going to go to you, but he worked open quite a bit and did a nice job of working back to the quarterback, kind of some veteran heady stuff, right? That said, I'm with you, man. I think this next preseason game is huge for him. Like as far as what he gives them in the return game. And it's weird because it gets him back into that kind of mentality that we saw in week 1 of the preseason.
Gotta show coach something.
Gotta show coach something.
I
don't know, man. I don't know. Here's hoping, because I like him. I think he's a good story, and I think he is talented and can help the team. But I do think he's going to be. There's a very good chance he's caught in a numbers crunch.
One of the other things that I think goes undersold with the Mecole Hardman thing, he is a vested veteran, and what that means is if he makes the team in week 1, his contract fully guarantees.
Yeah.
Now, that is not the case with Malik Heath, right? So Malik Heath can be this piece that you keep as your wide receiver 6, whenever you want to activate Christian Watson off of PUP, you can release Heath and, hope to get him back on the practice squad, maybe elevate him a couple times to play special teams on like the kick return unit as a blocker and stuff like that, right? If there's an injury, you can bring him back up. Mecole Hardman is not in that same position.
No.
Once he makes that team in week 1, his contract fully guarantees. So if you get rid of him, there's no promise that he's going to re-sign with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be a market for someone bringing in a punt returner. And like we said, when Malik Heath signed with the Packers, they had questions about the speed receiver situation. That's not the same anymore. So, if Mecole Hardman was a free agent today, would he re-sign with Green Bay or would he sign with someone else? Like, there's all sorts of things that come into factor with this Heath versus Mecole Hardman situation.
Well, they do certainly love to pinch a penny, and every little dollar counts. The one thing to remember in that situation is Hardman was signed for a song. So it's not like, his contract's fully guaranteed. What a monster hit that is. Like, it's not significant, but
it's not huge.
It is
it's
a data point
they'll
they'll consider. No question about it. There's no doubt.
Well, the Packers, I think it's something like, I know Ken's tweeted this out. It's something like they have like $2 million in effective cap space going into next year. And like, obviously they're probably going to move on from Melton Jenkins and like a bunch of stuff. Kenny Clark, that's a situation to monitor going into the next year. But that's just, again, more money that they have to manipulate, and you're borrowing from the future and stuff like that. So it is small, but it is also not nothing.
It all adds up.
The Packers are kind of threading the needle.
Agreed. I totally agree. Flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball, the final spot I want to look at is cornerback. And I got this question for you. We've talked all camp, even after Hobbs got injured, we know the score, right? We got Hobbs, we got Keyshawn Nixon, and we got Carrington Valentine. Those are your 3. So my question to you, Justis, is Bo Melton cornerback number 4 on this team?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so too.
The way that they've used him,
it's crazy to me.
When you watch it, the big thing was always going to be the physicality, right? And I think that's a huge thing for the preseason games, because you're watching full contact football for a guy who transitioned from receiver to corner. The physicality has been there, right? I think you retweeted one of my comments during the Jets game where I was like,
the folded chair,
just folded a wide receiver like a steel chair.
So good.
I had been watching some old 90s wrestling clips the night before. That's why that was in my mind.
Nice.
So I think Melton's corner 4, and then 5, man, is a choose your own adventure. Kamal Hadden and Kalen King were the starting corners yesterday because again, all the other guys were sat. King, for the most part, is playing in the slot in 3 corner looks, for whatever that's worth. Hadden kind of got peppered at outside corner. I know he's coming off an injury.
He had a rough game, no doubt.
Both of those guys were practice squad guys last year. Corey Ballantyne, they haven't really been getting on defense so far, but they are giving him like the spots that he had on special teams last year. Like if you watch him kick return, he actually got kicked one yesterday or 2 days. Yesterday. Again, days are
all together now. I get it.
He's used as like the lead blocker and stuff like that on the kick return team. So he'd be back there with like Keyshawn. Obviously, in the preseason, it's Banacanda who's been handling that stuff. I lean Ballantyne here just because of the special teams experience.
Yep.
I think in his situation, because he's started like 7 games for him on defense. I don't think that they're like, oh man, we got to see a ton of Ballantyne, right? Like I think they're just giving the young guys opportunities to see if it's actually going to be a competition. So I'll lean Ballantyne for now. I think 5 make it. I think it'd be pretty tough for 6 to make it, especially if, and I think this is more up in the air the more he plays preseason football, if Isaiah Simmons makes this roster.
Baby,
because Isaiah Simmons,
Toledo,
Isaiah Simmons plays DB spots on special teams, but you need more. There's basically like 2 spots as like non-returners on special teams, right? At least under Rich, it's the DBs, and then it's the linebacker, DN, tight end types.
Mm-hmm.
And Simmons hopes you not to play as many DBs
as many
on special
DBs,
teams.
the bigger body linebacker.
But that also means you need more linebackers who are not Isaiah Simmons, right? So
you would
it
think
kind
to
of leads to a
populate your
different
actual
issue.
defense, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's where it gets interesting with Welch. You know, it's like I don't think he's been quite as good as he was last summer, but I do think he's been good.
Agree.
You know what I mean? I
Agree.
do think
Yeah, but
he's been overall.
he's been buddy on special teams as someone who's like actually grinding that tape.
Right.
Dude, he's killing it. He's killing it on special teams.
Yep.
The opening haven't done the all 22 on
How
this
dare
past
you?
game,
Right.
but did it on the Jets game. Opening kickoff of the Jets game, him and Ben Sims completely dirt nap a guy on kickoff return. Unfortunately, Sorrell got called for a holding.
Yep.
And then on punt team, they're running the Jets ran devil
That first
vice.
punt coverage. Oh my goodness. So
he got like 3 tackles and like 4 punts or something like that. Like
so good.
He was playing crazy.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So I have a 53-man roster that I've just been like updating throughout.
Right. Is Welch on it at this moment as we sit here today?
So I have to say on the front end, I just have Lloyd and Sorrell as like IR designated for return just
Makes
because
sense. Yeah.
I just needed bodies. But I got 5 linebackers. Welch is one of them. Simmons is not. Is how
I mean, how do you look at the body of work over the course of the last, especially 2 weeks, but even throughout this entire camp, and not go that route? I mean, I don't know how you go any other way.
Well, it's weird because it seemed like they really wanted to clear the runway for Simmons. Like 2 weeks ago, he's rotating with like Isaiah McDuffie for that third linebacker role, and I know they want to do like defensively. They did some of the weird things against the Jets where you play 4-3 personnel and you get into a 3-4
down to the 3-4, right?
Van Ness kicks in to basically like a defensive tackle spot. Simmons walks up to a linebacker. But like, is that enough to justify a roster spot? Like, I don't think so, man. Like, he's not playing good football right now.
No.
So
I'd
rather not.
Agree.
I'd rather not.
Well, we'll see how it shakes out. I know you'll be covering it all there over at Acme Packing Company. There's a link in the description of this video for everyone to check out Justis's work over there. Justis, thank you so much for the time, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Folks, join the comment section. Have fun. Have a hoot. Tell me I'm a bozo. Whatever your heart desires.
The comment section is wide open. Go Pack Go.